Exactly. Right now, the bounty on your head is no small sum. Though we are searching, we have yet to confirm who placed the bounty. Until they are found or resign the offer, the hunters will not stop trying to find you. We will do everything in our power to make sure the former happens, but until that time, you need to remain as inconspicuous as possible. Piper raises a hand to get our attention and begins to speak. The captain's right about one thing. There is no bigger threat than Trinette. She is a highly successful bounty hunter with many followers and resources. However, Trinette obsesses over efficiency and getting things done as quickly as possible, and that works in our favor. All you have to do is stay secure long enough that the cost of finding you outweighs the possible reward. Once that happens, she'll give up the chase. Who's Trinette? I'm compelled to bring it up since I must know who could possibly be threatening my January. Trinette is the woman from earlier who spoke with you right before I did. What? But she seemed like such a reasonable person when I talked with her. Kia's eyes widened at me as if I said something ridiculous. She pulled a gun on you. I was moments away from intervening. Are you really so blind to possible threats? Can you really blame them? Who would suspect someone of having a real gun in Vespa? It's Vespa? I thought it was called Meyer. Anyways. Chaos coughs at the idea, but doesn't make further comment. Either way, I throw my initial impression aside and place Trinette in a spot of utter hatred in my mind. Anyone who threatened January belongs there. Excuse me, but how long do you think I'd have to wait? A couple of weeks, maybe a month if it's an amazing offer. A group can go much longer than that without collecting a reward. Oh. From the tone of his voice, it's clear that is much longer than he was hoping for. I wholeheartedly agree. Come on now. You can tolerate being here for a few weeks. Well, as you all saw, staying in a populated area is no deterrent for Trinette, even the capital. Since that's the case, and most of your officers are tied up looking for the one who made the bounty, I don't think it's entirely unreasonable if January stayed elsewhere as long as it is secured. I'm pleased to hear you suggest that. In that case, I would prefer to go back home. It is certainly well protected. Kia shakes her head. Isn't the house you're talking about on the surface? You'll be nothing but a sitting duck down there. I didn't realize your house was off the land fraction, Duke. I side with Kia on this one. If any group knew you went there, it's unlikely you'd complete the trip. Clearly, that is not an option. I repeat my offer of police protection. If this station is not suited to your liking, we can arrange other accommodations nearby. January looks hardly satisfied with that alternative. I can't blame him. A life surrounded by police would be unpleasant indeed. Very well. If he cannot go to my home on the surface, my family owns another property that is also quite secure. Where is that? It's on the other side of the land fraction. The three consider a moment, with Kia and Piper both nodding. That would be less obvious than going to your main home on the surface, and at least on the land fraction there are ways to keep out of sight. That's true. I would say that is the better option of the two. I'm glad we all agree. I would like to go there then. I don't wish to be a burden to the police any longer, and frankly, I'm hardly worried about the bounty hunters myself. The disruption they cause is far more grievous. It is the job of the police to take care of the citizenry. So, you need never mind inconveniencing us. I would much prefer you remain here. I'm sorry, but I would prefer to leave. As much as I have appreciated your assistance, you cannot rightly compel me to remain. If I wish to leave, that is my decision. The captain grumbles, looking a bit put out. I can't disagree, loath as I am to admit it. At least give me some peace of mind by taking some kind of escort with you. I can quickly round up what officers are available, and they will be happy to accompany you." "Excuse me, sir, but I don't think that would be such a good idea." What do you mean?" "A large group might offer the semblance of security, but it's also much easier to find. Because Trinette is armed, avoiding fights in the first place should be the priority, not to mention that to cross the line for action, one has to go through some narrow and unstable places. A large group would be more hindrance than help there. In my opinion, the Duke's best chance is to go with a small group and finish the trip as quickly as possible." "She has a point, Captain. Besides, you need more help here to track down the ones who placed the bounty. No matter the number of hunters, if the bounty disappears, they'll have much less of a reason to keep the Duke, even if they get a hold of him." Piper nods in agreement. If you'd like to do more, perhaps you could create a distraction here in the city, giving us a chance to slip out without being noticed. Such as some kind of false escort party going in the opposite direction from us, then have the Duke take a few people and rush to his house as fast as possible. As fast as he can. Yes, that's sound thinking. We'll do everything on our end to make as appealing as target as possible. Now, since the group is aiming to be low profile, I will assign Officer Kia to join you. They are here on an undercover assignment anyway, so no citizen will recognize them as a police officer. I understand. Who else will be assigned? It's not much trouble, so I'd like to come. I know the area, I saw the city well, and have the most experience with the bounty hunters out of this bunch. January looked satisfied with the arrangement, smiling contentedly. "Yes, us four should make a fine traveling party." Piper, Kia, and the captain look at one another in confusion. "You want only one more officer?" "Certainly not. One is enough, I think." "I meant the seer will be joining us. That makes us 4. "Of course. Yes, of course I'll be coming." "No, you will not. We are in the process of contacting the sanctuary, and I can't have you out of my sight until then. Contacting them will do no good, Captain. You see, Seer is normal. Almost everyone shows obvious shock at this unexpected revelation. None more than me. Thankfully, my mask hides my expression. The only one who doesn't look surprised is Piper, who merely frowns in concentration." "What?" "Please explain yourself." January gives me a quick look and then faces the captain. "Seer is actually one of my bodyguards sent by my family. They are dressed this way to serve as a more enticing target, since that abnormal is likewise a rare sight and worth much to the sanctuary and others. We were separated during the initial attack, and Seer ran to try and draw attention away from me. Obviously, it worked. So you see, since Seer is a personal protector, there should be no problem with them accompanying us." Piper can't fully conceal her smirk and has to place a hand over her mouth to stifle her laughter. Kia's eyes show outrage. "You're saying all that was an act?" All eyes turn to me again, and I subtly look to January, who scrupulously avoid my eye. The concealed smile, I nod. The Duke is right. The ruse was somewhat complicated, but it did throw off suspicion, as you can see. January nods and smiles mischievously at me, which makes me feel as though everything I've been through in my life has been worth it. Duke January, such a ruse is far from acceptable. Making the populace believe an abnormal is among us could cause widespread issues. You cannot allow your people to act in such a manner. I do apologize, Captain, but considering the situation that the bounty hunters caused, I hardly consider Seer's disguise unwarranted. Still, I will make sure not to let it happen again. Kia narrows their eyes at both January and me. I don't believe that for a second. The captain looks at them with a shrug. It's rather unorthodox, but not impossible. It's better than the idea that an abnormal came all the way here tomorrow. The two lean in and begin to whisper. They must not realize my hearing is not so bad as these clothes would make it seem. We can't openly accuse him of lying. Even if we're right, the chance of successfully making a case of it is small. So just get them tested. A conclusive test will be a strong enough defense. Excuse me, but are you accusing the Duke, January, of lying? Both of them look at me uncomfortably for a moment. Then, when January speaks up, since the party has been decided, I would like to leave first thing tomorrow morning. I trust that won't be a problem for you, Captain. I would rather not be delayed just for your unwarranted suspicion. If that doesn't satisfy you, Officer Kia, you are welcome to stay behind. There's no need for that, Duke. I'm sure Officer Kia is more than willing to remain with the group. If you wish to leave tomorrow, that can be arranged. Let's hope Officer Kia can act more respectful then. Otherwise, I will have to insist that they do remain behind in order to preserve the Duke's peace of mind. Kia rolls their eyes, completely not taking me seriously. Not that it bothers me. I'm quite impressed with myself for how well I'm maintaining this charade. Thank you, sir. Since the rest of the Sears things were left behind when we fled the hotel, they will remain dressed as they are until we get back to my house and can change. We don't really have time to get anything else. The captain gives a heavy sigh, but nods. Very well. I can have rooms prepared for you and Sear to sleep here tonight, where you will be safe until morning at least. Officer Kia, why don't you return home and prepare? I recommend the same to you, Miss Piper. The two of you can rejoin us here at dawn tomorrow. Thank you for the offer, though I'd like Sear to remain with me in the same room. Of course. Hooray! Kia gives me one last layer before departing. Good riddance. Piper smiles at us. Sleep well, you two. Should be a busy day tomorrow. She leaves the room with a little wave of her hand. Please follow me to your room. He nods cordially to January and me, then leaves. I snicker at how well that went, and January smiles slightly before assuming a more serious expression. I'm sure you might imagine, but just to be clear, if anyone tries to speak to you without my presence, do not allow it. Insist that you have nothing to say and cannot leave my side. I must also mention that there are many individuals in this building who could just happen to overhear what other people are saying. Because of that, we should refrain from conversation until tomorrow, lest there be any other misunderstandings. Agreed? Right. I nod, catching the extra meaning of misunderstandings. All we have to do is keep up appearances until we're at her house, then everything will be perfect. Excitement building, I follow January out of the room after the police captain. With the morning on the rise, January and I are once more ushered into the captain's room from the day before. I can't say I enjoyed the police station's accommodation, but there was one good thing at least, January. Knowing he was there, the moment I woke the next day was like receiving the vision all over again. I could hardly contain my joy. As soon as the captain steps out for a moment, I turn to him and notice his brow is furrowed and he appears nervous. I can even hear him whispering to himself, "It's gonna be fine, I'm gonna make it through this." "Are you all right, January?" "Oh, yes, of course. You showed me that. It's just things have not worked out as I could have expected, that's all. But I shouldn't be worried, right?" "Indeed." Well, it seems he answered his own question. "I'm glad. You did worry a lot before I came, I mean. Why is that?" January pauses and considers my question, and I can't help admiring the dashing figure he cuts when deep in thought. "I suppose it's simply a force of habit after all this time. Since you came and showed me the future, I can be more certain of my own safety than ever before. But you see, I was raised to be as cautious as I can be." A light seems to come into his eyes, and he nods with great emphasis. "I need to stop this. I'm wasting your generosity and a great opportunity to do more with my life." From now on, I will no longer allow hesitation to hinder me. Yes, I will be a participant for once." His little speech seemed directed more towards himself, making me merely an observer. As such, I am at a loss as to what to say and allow a silence to prevail. January's gaze remains fixed on some faraway point I could never see. Then he returns to me, and the nervousness he just renounced reappears, though lessened. Small steps, I suppose. "Sir, tell me, how would you feel about staying at my house after all this is over?" I'm stunned by his offer. It's exactly what I could have hoped for. I'm about to answer when he speaks again. I best elaborate with what with you knowing about my family's multiple properties now. I don't mean the safe house, the one Officer Kia will be escorting us to. I mean my actual home, the one on the surface. You could stay there as long as you wish. There's more than enough space. Oh yes, I would love that more than anything. January's smile broadens. Sometimes I feel he's too handsome. I can hardly stand it. Well, I mean, he is handsome. Wonderful. Then once this whole debacle is behind us, we can discuss our future plans in greater earnest. Let's hope this finishes as quickly as possible then. Quite so. Just then, the door opens and Piper and Officer Kia enter. Piper is smiling pleasantly, but Kia looks like a storm cloud has settled over their eyes. They glare at us, but ask not inhospitably if we slept well. I think I speak for both of us when I say we did. January nods in agreement. My rest could have been better. I think it's been too long since I've gotten enough fresh air. Life in this city can be stifling. She gives us a playful wink. A little trip across the land fraction could be just what we all need. Wouldn't you agree? January chuckles nervously. I suppose. While they're talking, Kia slides over to the front of the group, taking that authoritative stance I already know so well. Since I'm the only one who noticed, they cleared their throat to get the attention of everyone else. Since we'll be leaving soon, now is the time for me to explain the plan. Once we leave Meyer, we will be following one of the major rivers that cuts through the land fraction. That will be the smoothest route for some distance. We'll push on until it starts to get dark, then look for a suitable place to stop, preferably with some covering. At first light, we'll resume the journey, and if all goes well, we should arrive at January's house by evening the second day. At least we will arrive early the next morning. Kia looks at us as if silently asking if we got the message. We all nod, and they continue. Once we leave the city, the police will send out their decoy, hopefully confusing the bounty hunters into thinking they have the Duke with them. Our ride is already prepared for us outside the city limits, stocked with more than enough supplies to last us the trip. It was arranged away from the station to make it seem more like it was simply a normal travelers. We'll be walking through the city using back alleys and side streets to be seen as little as possible. So far, so good. Again, we all nod. At least you can all listen. That will be an important thing during the trip. Now, Duke January and his bodyguard will be riding in a steam carriage. Piper will also join you. I will be riding in front. I'll be riding in the front in a catboat. Both vehicles have a radio that will let us communicate with each other and back to the station as well. However, their range is limited, so once we reach the ruins at about middle of the land fraction, we'll be too far to reach back here to Meyer. Hopefully by that point it won't matter. Not the best equipment for the city police. I used to have radios in my travels that could reach all the way to the surface and it still work. Well, most of our good radios are being used for other duties. Those are simply the radios that are attached to those vehicles, and they will be plenty good enough for a 2-day trip. Piper shrugs. I don't mind, I was just saying. Yeah, it is just a peach that you're so technology savvy you're driving. That's just fine with me. I'd be happy to, in fact. Good. As for you, Seer, I want you to keep an eye out the back of the carriage for any trouble, and do your best to take care of your boss. With pleasure. I turned to January, hoping he will be happy that I was assigned this job. He smiles brightly, as I knew he would, and won't let him down. And Duke, the only thing I need you to do is to stay low and out of sight as much as possible. The less you're seen, the better. January actually frowns at his task.